I know. I said I wasn't going to touch the poop anymore, and here I am touching the poop. But I just spent a glorious morning unblocking a drain, so having touched literal poop, metaphorical poop doesn't seem half so bad. Here's the quick catch-up in case you're not on top of the things. This is happening mostly in the tabletop community, but there's some crossover with the LARP communities and the computer gaming community. So there is a games designer, former porn star and artist called Zak Smith, Zak Sabbath, Zak S. Has done things for Lamentations the Flame Princess, done things for Vampire Masquerade, various bits and bobs. And his ex-girlfriend has come out and accused him of emotional and sexual abuse, and a couple of other people have come forward as well. Now, as you might predict in this context in which we're living at the moment, everyone is very much believe the accusation, screw any rights of the accused, and so on. Zak may or may not be guilty, but I don't think this witch hunt atmosphere really does us any good, and companies have been lining up to, well, frankly, to take advantage of the situation for woke credentials, and happily censoring anything and everything that he has ever been involved in from their online stores or whatever else. So guilty or innocent, Zak is being memory holed, and as a result of that, a lot of other people are catching a lot of flack and being hurt, and the mob is taking this as license to attack a lot of other people. Now again, he might be guilty, he might be innocent, we're never really gonna know, and then that's the truth of it. He has finally come out with a statement of his own. Now, in this atmosphere, even advocating for the rights of the accused is somehow being taken as support for them. So I want to make clear and explicit again, I am not supporting Zak. I am not really arguing his side. I am arguing for due process, for the presumption of innocence. And I know this isn't a court of law, but the burden of proof applies everywhere. It's a basic logical principle. And think if you were accused, wouldn't you want there to be some kind of standard that people would adhere to before burning you at the metaphorical stake? I think so, and I think part of that is Zak having his right to reply. Though ironically, after reading his statement, I'm more likely to believe Mandy, frankly. But okay, I'll link it below, but let's just go over the gist of it. Okay, so the delay is that he was consulting with a lawyer. Now this is odd behaviour for Zak, because normally he will come out and attack with weaponised autism anything that anyone says bad about him. So this is a little strange for him, but actually I'll leave the analysis till afterwards. But anyway, there was a delay. He consulted with a lawyer. He spends a great deal of it talking about how much he loved Mandy, you know, the things he did for her, like he had all her medical requirements tattooed on his arm to make things quicker at the hospital, things like that, how she loved him and talked about him, undermining the credibility of the other couple of people that came forward. Is it 2 or 3 now? Yeah, and statements from them. So we have statements against Zak, we have statements for Zak, all from people who have been intimately involved with him, either friends or lovers. So we've got shit from both sides, quite frankly. And since all we've got is testimony, that doesn't really help cut through anything. Talks about the situation with them. Some of the specific allegations are kind of covered at the end. That, you know, trigger warning, I guess. Some of those are a bit explicit and so on. So there's that. Talks about Mandy's mental health issues, which is somewhat believable, I suppose, but I honestly don't know. Giving his context, his perception of the various things that she said about the way she acted, the things he said. One of them is a quote from a book, which is indeed a quote from a book, which she was presenting as an insult. It doesn't mean quoting from a book can't be an insult. Hie thee to a nunnery from Shakespeare, for example. I quite like quoting things when I am insulting people, so that doesn't really say too much, and there I am analysing again. So yeah, it's just mostly contextualising it all and kind of painting himself as the victim, I suppose, which is why his comments are being kind of dismissed and not passed on. So okay, let's give in and do the analysis now then. Now, Zak is an odd duck, but I sympathise a lot with his situation, at least up to this point, because people have systematically attacked me, lied about me, and so on in the past. In fact, they're doing it again, and many of the old lies that have previously been debunked are bubbling up, all because they're assuming that I am defending Zak rather than principles. And my Twitter account has been false flagged, and various other nonsense has gone on because they don't want anyone even speaking up for principle, let alone Zak directly. So be interesting to see what happens to anyone who actually does defend him. Zak has pissed a lot of people off. Why? Well, because he was in porn. He has defended himself and the people around him who've been attacked quite strenuously. He's accused of doxing and harassment and cyberstalking and all this, but he's definitely been the victim of those things. He just chooses not to take the high road like I try to. He fights back using the same tactics. This has cost him a great deal of support and friendship and so on, and has infuriated the kind of same mob that goes after me and others. So I know that people can be lied about and misrepresented. They can have everything they've ever done poured over looking for anything remotely insulting or wrong about it. Zak is frankly more talented than me, and that has shielded him a great deal from a lot of this. But this is also a big part of why this is being taken to such a fervent level against him. People see their opportunity. They're not really concerned for the victim, if there is a victim in this case. They're being performatively woke. But then Zak is also, in other contexts, performatively woke. He has apparently written me off as a bigot or whatever else, though that's how I know he can be a manipulative swine to near psychopathic levels. Because the reason he wrote me off and started slagging me off was to try and rehabilitate his own image, and he said so explicitly to me in messages or email. I've been looking for them, I haven't been able to find them, but I remember it distinctly. I had been going to bat for him and his friends, protecting them against the more egregious allegations and nastiness that was going on. Many of them woke crowd had been going after his friends and playgroup and so on, calling Kimberly Kane stupid, if I remember correctly. Things like that, nasty stuff, and this was coming from the woke crowd who are supposedly all feminist and whatever. And he basically cut me loose, saying that it's just not politic for me to be seen talking to you and whatever else. But that also introduces another kind of confounding element, in that even after that point, he still went to bat to defend me after I was accused of sending rape threats to female developers, something that never happened at all. And his pedantry and focus actually forced people to investigate and find out that I was innocent, though that accusation has bubbled up again. And he had nothing to gain, really, at least directly, from defending me there, other than maybe undermining some of his critics who were also my critics. So there's that to consider. So he's hated, he's capable of psychopathic levels of manipulation, but he has been known to do things that are genuinely selfless or principled. And many of the people attacking him are total and complete hypocrites. So we've got to keep all that in mind. But this reply feels manipulative. It reminds me of the way he talked about, and to me, the reframing of things. You got to wonder, and that's why I feel more on Mandy's side of events after reading this. It's too measured, too careful, too controlled, but that's all subjective judgment. I don't know, I'm still not rendering a judgment, I'm just telling you that's kind of how I feel about the whole thing. So riddle me this, after all this. Potentially, hypothetically, what could Zak have done in the face of these allegations that would make a difference to anyone's opinion? Is there anything he could have done? Because this is kind of a perfect Kafka trap. If you defend yourself, you are going to be seen as manipulative or dismissing or trying to play the victim or further abusive or whatever else. If you don't defend yourself, then it's taken as you conceding to whatever allegations are made against you. So what could he have done or said in the face of these allegations that would have made any difference to the people attacking him? I don't think there is anything. I don't think there's anything you could do that would make any difference, and there's nothing he could have said in any way that would have made any difference that I can think of. That's why this worries me so much. If all it takes is a social media post to completely trash your entire career, your history of work, your reputation, everything, it's not a good place to be in for anybody. It's not a good place to be in as an industry. And it sets a precedent of memory holding problematic people. And once you start doing that, how far does the bar lower? Yeah, how many people is it going to take in, and what degree of transgression? The wrong politics, the wrong social attitudes, the wrong style, the wrong presentation, saying bad words. Where is it going to stop? Where is it finally going to come to rest? And why should all the other people, like James Raggi and whoever else, why should they be punished for what one person involved in a project has done? This is all extremely concerning and worrying, and it's been concerning and worrying in the culture at large, let alone within a subculture. And yeah, there's a degree of personal worry there. I haven't done anything, but that doesn't seem to matter, does it? So if people came after me with some kind of allegation, what would happen then? Would anyone bother to check? I don't know. I don't think they would. And people hate me almost as much as they hate Zak. I'm just less significant. So where does it stop? Is Pundit next for arguing with people online? And the comparisons being drawn between arguing with people online, however vociferously, and sexual or emotional abuse. It's kind of disgusting. Really disgusting, in fact. So I still don't know. Nobody knows. All we've got is the testimonials of two sides. That's going to come down on who you believe and why. Believing an accusation, however, is an inquisitorial form of justice which is inherently unjust. Accusations, claims, are the things that need to be proven. Now, just before I came on to do this, I got a DM from a semi-anonymous account saying there was another case like this where someone came forward about their abuse, and the whole thing unwound very, very differently. And you know, they're right, and it is an excellent point. When Erin Gajoni came out with his Zoe post about Zoe Quinn and the emotional abuse that he suffered at her hands, where was Believe the Victim then? Makes you think. Zang. One other quick postscript while I remember. Loving someone doesn't preclude you from being abusive, and at all. Indeed, a lot of abuse stems from a twisted version of love. You can want to control someone because you love them. You can be insanely jealous because you love someone. You can be horrible to someone for their own good in your own mind because you love them. And all of that is essentially meaningless. It doesn't matter. People do horrible things to people they claim to love and probably do love all the time. And grandiose statements or actions don't mean necessarily that you love someone. They can be performative. They can be to project an air or to hold over someone as evidence. I did this for you. You know? So that whole section of it is essentially meaningless. The only parts of that letter that really matter, I think, are his read on events and the testimonies in support of him. And then you have to take that and weigh and measure it against the accusations.